What's happening, friends? Trumpeter Bobby Spellman here to welcome you to the third episode in our series discussing the solos of beloved jazz trumpeter Chet Baker. Now, in the last half of the 1950s, Chet made a bunch of great records worth checking out, including Chet Baker and Crew, A Picture of Heath, Chet Baker in New York, and Chet. But after being chased out of his hometown of Los Angeles and later chased out of New York, Chet found himself touring around Europe, playing gigs and hanging out with Benito Mussolini's son, of all things. Now, at that time, in 1959, a lot of great music was being made. We have Miles Davis making Kind of Blue, Ornette Coleman making The Shape of Jazz to Come, and many other great records coming out of New York. And at this time, Chet made his album, Chet Baker in Milan. Now, this is a great record to check out because it's a great snapshot of Chet's playing at the end of the 1950s, just before he went to jail in Italy for a year and a half. So today we are going to talk about Chet's great solo on Tadd Dameron's Ladybird on this exciting episode of Theory with Bob. All right, gang, before we get into Chet's solo, I wanted to quickly let you know that next week I'm bringing my own quartet to the legendary Rudy Van Gelder studio to record our debut album. Now, for the last couple weeks, we've been running a Kickstarter to raise the funds in order to cover the costs of making this album, but we only have until this Friday, July 31st, to make our goal, or we won't be able to keep the money we've raised so far to fund the album. So if you've liked these videos and you want to help us out and be a part of the creation of a brand new original jazz record, you can find the link in the description below to pick up a pre-order of our future album in digital download form or on CD or vinyl. You can get a signed copy, various things of that nature. Optimistic that we can still make the goal by Friday, but we need your help. It'd be really amazing if you wanted to check it out and help us get over the finish line by Friday in order to make our goal and fund this album. Huge thanks to everybody who's already donated to the Kickstarter campaign and picked up a pre-order of the album. I'm really excited to make this music, and with your help, we can get over the finish line in time. All right, with that said, let's dive into Chet Baker's solo on Ladybird. Now, if you're not familiar with this album and you want to check it out, I'll give you an opportunity to pause this video real quick and check out Chet's recording of Ladybird. I'll put it down in the description below. All right, you're still here? Here we go. Last thing I'll say is that we're going to do this transposed for trumpet. So this is the transcription is transposed for B-flat instruments, but if you want to check it out in concert pitch or in E-flat, you can find transcriptions in any of these keys on my Patreon at the link in the description. All right, without further ado, here it is, Chet Baker's solo on Ladybird. All right, there's a ton of great information in that solo, and I'm going to try to get to as much of it as I can. But in order to do so, I'm going to focus primarily on Chet's lines in this tune. And to that end, I'm going to just talk about a couple of things off the top that I think might be useful to listen for as we check out elements of this solo. So the first thing you can hear is that in the beginning of the 1950s, in 1952, you can really hear a strong Miles Davis influence in Chet's playing. But I think at this point, and then ongoing throughout the rest of his career, you can really hear Chet carving out his own sound, primarily focusing on that bebop approach to playing lines, but in a particularly lyrical, melodic way. So Chet had a particular gift for playing these kinds of melodic lines through the changes, and we'll definitely hear that. And that's as opposed to if you were to listen, for example, to Miles Davis play on Kind of Blue from the same year, you can hear the distinction in the way that Miles Davis was going in one direction, and Chet was sort of following his own path that he would continue to follow until the end of his career. Now, there are a couple of situations in which we're just going to hang out on one chord for 2 bars in this tune. And generally speaking, on the D major 7 chord at the beginning of the tune, he's going to play in D major, and not a lot of surprises there. But then when we have a bunch of 2/5s moving to different keys in the tune, for example, the G minor 7 to C7, and then later the C minor 7 to F7 and the B minor 7 to E7, he tends to more or less focus on the Dorian sound from the 2 chord, rather than really outlining the specifics of the differences between the 2 and the 5 in a 2-5-1. So he's taking a very melodic approach to navigating those 2/5s leading to the different keys in the tune that you will hear. I'll make a little note of that, but by and large, I'm going to spend most of the rest of the time talking about these lines that he's playing. So we're going to play through a little bit more of this solo, and I'm going to stop you at a certain point, and we're going to just talk about specific lines that he's playing. So let's start from the beginning. It goes like this. All right, this is a great little line here that incorporates some chromaticism and some delayed resolution. So I'm going to play it for you real quick, and then we're going to talk about it. It goes like this. 1. Now there you can hear he's moving chromatically from the 5 of C minor 7 down to the minor 3rd. And as in other solos, you'll notice that he's playing the chord tones on the downbeat, or the diatonic notes on the downbeat, and the chromatic notes on the upbeats to create a little tension to drive us towards the end. Now, you can hear in this that in the F7 measure, in measure 8 of his solo, you get this sound. Now this is a way of enclosing the A, which is the 3rd of the F7. That's a classic bebop sound. You'll hear that all the time. But the way he does it is he delays the resolution from the C minor 7 to that A that is the 3rd of F7 until the 3rd beat of the F7. You also heard this in his solo on Bernie's tune, so you can check that out. He does a little of this delayed resolution, and then he continues the delayed resolution, plays the 4 right on the B flat major 7 in bar 9, and then doesn't really resolve that B flat major 7 until the 2nd beat or maybe the 3rd beat of the B flat major 7 chord. So he moves the resolutions 2 beats behind throughout that whole phrase. I'm going to play it for you one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a pretty clever way of approaching that 2-5-1 into the B flat major 7. Now you're going to hear him navigating the B minor 7 and the E7 going in towards the end of his first 16 bars of the tune. And we're going to listen to that right now. It sounds like this. All right, this brings us to the beginning of the 2nd chorus of his solo. Now, I'm going to play you the lead-in that he uses to navigate Tad Dameron's clever changes at the end of Ladybird, and then I'm going to play you the first 4.5 or so measures of his 2nd chorus, which is a beautiful line, and then we're going to talk about some components of it. That sounds like this. All right, starting on the first bar of his 2nd chorus on the D major 7 chord and resolving on the first beat of bar 5 of his 2nd chorus, also on the D major 7, I'm going to play that whole line, and it sounds like this. That's a great line. There's quite a lot of information on there. So let's break that down, and we're going to talk about each of the individual pieces of that line. The first thing that he does is play a D major 7 chord from the 3rd up to the 9th. So he plays the 3rd to the 5th to the major 7th to the 9th of the D major 7 chord. Sounds like this. And then resolves to the 1. So that's just using a major 7 chord starting on the 3rd of the D major scale. Now, there's a million different ways that you can practice using seventh chords, but I love to run seventh chords through any particular key to make sure that I have them under my fingers because it's a great way to navigate the scale. Now, one way that I like to play it is to play up one of the seventh chords of the mode and then down the next seventh chord. So that might sound like this. Now, you can run various inversions of those arpeggios, but it's useful to be able to play each of the seventh chords starting on each of the notes of the mode, both up and down. So, if you want to check that out, I'm going to take all of these exercises that I'm doing today and put them in a chart of their own and put them on my Patreon page, which you can find in the description below if you want to check out these and all the different keys. All right, now, next thing he does. So there's just a little turn. If you want to practice turns, it's useful to just go through the entire mode, starting from the top and go down, just go down in either triplets or 8th, 16th notes. It sounds like this, 1/8, 2/16. I'm going to do it like that because that's the way that Chet plays it here. It goes like this. That'll just take you through the mode and you'll be able to use the turns whenever they come up. That's a really useful rhythmic approach to be able to have under your fingers. Now here's the next line that's quite delightful. It sounds like this. So you'll hear him use that again through the rest of the piece. So in D major, he's starting on the 5, then jumping down a 6th to the C sharp, and then up to the D, up a 4th to the G, and then resolving to the F sharp. Sounds like this. Now, this is a great line to practice in starting on various different notes of the mode. This one's a little harder to put into a pattern because it jumps down thirds, so you make it across the whole range of the instrument pretty quickly, but playing it in a pattern just to get various permutations of this melody under your fingers might sound like this. Now that doesn't take me across the entire mode because it's quite a wide range, but you can play around with different permutations of that. I'll try to write some various exercises that you can play around with in the chart on my Patreon. So we're going to move on from there. Now you get him just walking up, 1, 2, 3. It's going to go into the Dorian sound and the G minor, sound like this. So there, we can hear a nice little pattern going from the 5 of G minor to the 3 to the 2 to the 1. Ba, ba, da, da. Now that comes up a lot, so that's another thing that's really worth practicing. Now you can take that as well as all these other patterns through the various notes of the mode. If I were going to do it in G Dorian, it might sound like this if I start on the 5. So you can take that around the mode. Then we get some fairly conventional phrases that get us back to the 3rd of D major 7. That sounds like this. That puts us the 3rd of D major 7 at the beginning of the second 8 bars of his second chorus of the solo. Now we're going to just move on. You're going to pretty much get what goes on here. I'm going to stop in a second to just show you one thing, and it goes like this. All right, before we get into his next line, which is spectacular, one thing that's worth mentioning is he doesn't play anything that specifically defines the E7 as different from the B minor 7. So he doesn't play the G sharp on the E7 chord, but he does play the sharp 4 on the E7, which could also be heard as the major 7th of the B minor 7 chord. Now, that comes up a couple of times in his solos, so it's worth mentioning. And in this case, it sounds like this. So you can hear that use of the A sharp on the E7. That'll come up later, so I just want to make a mention of that. Now, we're going to go on and play his great line at the end of this 16 bars of the solo. It goes like this. All right, most of this line is just playing up and down the scales. He does play the major 7 on the E minor 7 chord before going back down to the minor 7th of the E minor 7. That's a cool little move. He throws a couple of chromatic passing tones in there, but I'm going to play the line for you real quick so you can hear it, and then we'll talk about a couple of these things. It goes like this. landing at the beginning of the next chorus. Now, most of that, once again, is just linear. There's one pattern here that I want to pull from this. It goes like this. Now, that's an easy one we've talked about in other videos. You could just take that through the entire D major scale. Might sound like this. Something like that. That gives you that ability to play through something like that. Now there he has a little chromatic enclosure surrounding the G on the B flat major 7 chord. And there you hear that pattern that we did earlier. Going from a D to the B flat to the A to the G, outlining kind of an E flat Lydian sound on the E flat major 7 chord, the flat 2, resolving to the beginning of the next chorus, the D major 7. Now, beginning of the next chorus, you see once again, he starts it with a D major 9 arpeggio starting on the 3rd. So 3, 5, major 7, 9. It goes like this. Once again, he's using the turn in there. So if you practice that, that's under your fingers at that point. Here it goes. That's a nice little melody, gets us to the G minor 7 chord. Now you hear a little chromatic move that going through the D major 7. Once again, with the chromatic stuff, he's landing on the chord tones on the downbeat, and he's using the chromatic notes on the offbeats to create a little tension to drive us to the melody forward. Then he plays through the C minor 7 to F7, the 2-5-1 in B flat major, using a couple of chromatic notes. You're going to hear that. I'm going to play that for you right now. It sounds like this. All right, we're going to take 1 second to talk about what he's doing on that B flat major 7. It goes like this. Now that's another little chromatic enclosure there you can hear. Resolving to the 1 of B flat major 7. Now if you want to practice that kind of line, we talked about this in an earlier episode, but you can practice the chromatic scale, moving down a step, up a half step, down a step, up a half step, down a step, up a half step. If you've got those under your fingers, you can incorporate some of that into the lines that you play. That might sound something like this. You can do that starting on any note. The chromatic scale obviously is just 12 notes, so wherever you start it, you're going to get the same effect, but that'll give you the ability to play through something like this. And resolve to the 1. So he's starting on the 7th of the major chord, doing a little chromatic move, and landing on the 1 of B flat major 7. All right, he's going to keep going. He's going to play, once again, if you were going to listen to it, he's going to play the major 7 on the B flat minor 7 chord. I'll play it for you real quick. Sounds like this. And then he's going to play another line through the changes of the tune. I'm going to play that whole little section for you. Sounds like this. All right, once again, he's playing both the major 7 and the minor 7 on the E minor 7 chord, walking down the scale. He's using the D major 7 arpeggio, starting on F sharp, A, C sharp, and E. Then he does another little turn, and then he makes a smooth transition into the last 2 bars of the form, going to the F major 7, B flat major 7, E flat major 7, resolving to the 1 of D major 7 in the next chorus. Sounds like this. Resolving to the 5 of D major 7. Now, none of the rest of the stuff for the next couple of bars is going to be very surprising, so we're going to run through that right now. It sounds like this. All right, here we can see this pattern that we've already heard in the tune. It goes like this. So that's just, etc. You take that up. Then he moves up the scale. He lands on the major 3rd on a C minor 7 chord. Sounds like this. Which is a wrong note by all normal accounts, but he fixes it by then moving chromatically down to the E flat on an F7 chord. Resolving beautifully to the B flat major 7 chord. So we could look at that as being a delayed resolution from the D major 7, but probably just ended up playing an E on a C minor 7 chord, and then he corrected it by just doing a little chromatic move to resolve to the B flat major 7. This brings us to the end of his solo, and a beautiful line that you're going to hear in the last 4 bars of the solo, and that sounds like this. Woo! All right, that's a great line to end the solo, and you'll notice that a bunch of stuff that he's playing is stuff that we've already seen in this solo. So let's go through it real quick. I'll show you what we're talking about. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the very first thing that he starts with is going chromatically up to the A, and then you hear that little chromatic enclosure that we talked about before. It goes like this. To resolve to the 3 of D major 7 in the last 2 bars of the tune. And then you'll hear the turn here. And then you hear this line one more time. Where he's going from the A down to the C sharp to the D up to the G, resolving to the 3rd of D major 7. Now in this case, he's playing a little bit more of a horizontal line through the last 2 measures. So you may remember from last week's episode the difference between thinking about something as vertical, where you're very specifically playing the changes of the moment, and horizontal, where you're playing the key of the moment and allowing the chords to color the melody that you're playing in that key. So once again, I'm going to play that. You know what, I'll tell you what, I'm going to have Chet play it for you. We're going to play it one more time. You're going to hear the chromaticism going up, and then a little chromatic enclosure, and then the phrases leading you to the last note of his solo, and it goes like this. All right, gang, and there you have it. Chet Baker's solo on Ladybird from Chet Baker in Milan. You can check out that whole album to hear what Chet Baker was sounding like in 1959. If you'd like to check out the transcription transposed for B flat, E flat, or in concert pitch, you can find them all at my Patreon in the link in the description. You can also find all these exercises that I've pulled from this solo so that you can incorporate some of these ideas into your own playing, no matter where in the mode you happen to fall. All right, gang, if you like this video and you want to stay up to date with what we're doing, you can give it a like and subscribe to the channel. And if you're looking for lessons either online or in person in the New York City area in trumpet, trombone, euphonium, various woodwind instruments, things of that nature, jazz, improvisation, composition, what have you, you can find us on our website at ridgewoodschoolofmusic.com, or send us an email at ridgewoodschoolofmusic@gmail.com, and we'll be sure to set you up with a great teacher for what you're looking for. All right, gang, have a wonderful time practicing and listening to Chet Baker solos. We're going to do another one of these next week. We're going to keep the series going. So I hope you've had fun with this, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya!